If you're presenting a slide deck or giving a presentation in front of a room full of people, novice presenters are often faced with a dilemma. Do you write out every single word and read from a script and sound unnatural? Or do you not write anything down at all and you just wing it? Quick tip, if you learn nothing else after watching this slide deck, here's a quick way that you can sound more natural. You can lose the formal words when you're presenting. So for example, you may be watching a webinar, or you may be listening to somebody giving a speech, and if they've written out their speech, they'll often write it out on a piece of paper, and as such, they're not writing in the way we speak. So we don't ever really say, when we're talking to a friend, we don't ever say "it is." If you ever watch a movie or a television show, they'll say, "Hey, it's going to rain today." They don't say "it is going to rain today." It kind of sounds robotic. They don't say "there is another way." They say, "Oh, there's another way." They don't say "how is it going?" They just go, "Hey, how's it going?" They don't say something like "I did not understand the request." They'll say, "Oh, I didn't understand what you're talking about." So when you're writing a speech, if you have to give a speech maybe at a wedding, or if you're presenting in front of a room full of people at work, just take a look through the speech and see if there's ways you can make it sound more casual. And a big, easy win is to just look at the little connector words here, like "it is," "there is," "how is," "I did not," and just make it sound less robotic. Another quick way that you can make things appear more natural when you're presenting is to take control of the slide deck. Now, sometimes we can do this and sometimes we can't. So I'm going to go on the assumption here that we can change our slide deck. If you're giving a presentation, for example, and in the example I've got here is top attractions for London, England. And, so here's a typical boring slide. So you've may sat in a presentation like this. So let's take a look at the slide first. Look at the word count. Okay, it's way too many words for a slide. So your audience is either going to listen to you talking, or they're going to read the slide. They're not going to do both. And remember, a typical audience member can read much faster than you, the presenter, can speak. So what we're looking at right now, this is weak. In fact, you probably missed half of what I'm saying right now because you're busy reading the London landmarks. So let me repeat, this is not a good presentation. The audience will read or they will listen, not both. So now here's a slide at the other end of the spectrum. So if you're teaching a concept, like for example, the top attractions for London, England, then a picture could work just fine. But now here's another problem. As a presenter, what are you actually going to say? Because remember, there's nothing on the actual slide for you to read. So now you're stammering and struggling to find the right words. So what'll happen a lot of times in the corporate world is you'll sometimes get a mandate to shrink your slide deck down. So if you're giving a presentation, someone might say, well, we're only allowed 8 slides. So as a result, people will just wind up cramming more information into a slide deck. This is not good. So what you're looking at now is an example of 3 bullets on a slide, and we've got Big Ben, Tower of London, and London Eye. So what is this slide really saying? As somebody who would be watching this presentation, I'd be confused. So are we watching a slide deck about Big Ben? Is Big Ben the concept? Is it these 3 items and we're not talking about Buckingham Palace, or we're not talking about the river in London, England, or Tower Bridge, for example? It's a confusing slide. So if you want to sound more natural, one thing you can do is, instead of cramming these bullets, you can put one concept or one bullet point on each slide, only one. So imagine that now we had to give a presentation on Big Ben and the Tower of London and the London Eye. So how would we do that? If you want to sound more natural, consider putting one concept on each slide. That way, when the slide pops up on the screen, you can just talk about Big Ben. You don't need to worry about the other pieces in your presentation in this moment. So you'll have a couple speaking notes, maybe on a flashcard, or maybe you'll have a little piece of paper in front of you, or even you're using a phone or maybe your iPad, and you can now talk about Big Ben. And you don't need to worry about anything else. There's nothing else on the slide deck to distract the audience. They will be listening to you. So you can visually take in Big Ben, but the words are coming from me, the presenter. So, for example, if I was presenting on this, I would say something like the following. All right, guys, we're going to cover 3 major tourist attractions for London, England. So first thing we're going to talk about is Big Ben. Now, I've been to Big Ben. I love Big Ben. That's the clock. You'll see it over on the right-hand side of the slide, and you'll see it's attached to Parliament. It's an amazing sight. And then you could go on at length about the different things about Big Ben. But notice now the audience is listening to you. They're listening to you with one part of their brain, and they're seeing Big Ben with another part of their brain. It makes things very easy for you as a presenter to just talk about one concept. And continuing the example, we now have the second bullet point, which is the Tower of London. So I jump in and I say something like, and next on the tour of London, England is the Tower of London. Now again, I went here, it was a day trip, it was amazing. It's an old castle that sits right in the middle of England. I really enjoyed it. So again, and you'd go on about the Tower of London. What you're doing is you're controlling what the audience sees, because you haven't just crammed everything into one slide. You're now controlling, you're like dishing out the information like a scoop at a time, like you had a big dish and you're scooping out the meal one spoonful at a time. Now you might be saying, yeah, that's real easy when we talk about really popular things like the Tower of London or the London Eye or, Big Ben. But what happens if I'm describing something that's a bit more boring? So I picked an example here of the London Eye, and I actually have not been on the London Eye. I went to London, England, but I did not go on the Eye. So what I would do if I was presenting about this is I could ask the audience if anyone there's been to the London Eye. And if anyone says yes, then I could draw on that experience. So to sound more natural as a speaker, one more thing you can do here is you can ask the audience a question. And you may not know the answer, and that's, it's a little risky, but I mean, if we're talking about something that's positive and fun, even if they say no, it's not the end of the world. So you could have a couple speaking notes about the London Eye. But if this was me and I was presenting, I could do something like, now the third stop on our tour here of London is the London Eye. It's a really large Ferris wheel. It sits right close to the river. Now, I've personally never been on the London Eye. I didn't have a chance to go on it when I was in my trip to London. But has anybody here in the room, have they been on the London Eye? Maybe a hand goes up and you go, yes, sir, you in the back. Can you describe your experience? What was it like? And then you can let them talk for a little bit. So there's nothing wrong with engaging the audience and asking them a question. That really will make you sound like a natural speaker. You can play off of them. Now, another quick tip to sound more natural when you're speaking is to avoid what I call list speak. Now, I see this all the time in meetings and presentations, and it's truly awful to listen to. So when you're speaking, it's natural for your brain to jump ahead a little bit and read what's next. And as a result, we tend to list each item on an up note when we speak. So we'll talk like this, and we'll talk like this, and we'll talk like this, and then we'll talk like this at the end of the list. So here's an example of a technical slide with some boring action items. So here's just an example of me reading this, and this is like boring list speak. This is not what you should do. Hey guys, I'm going to go over the action items for the new system. So we've got 7 action items. Now we want to ensure users have swipe card access. We want to ensure users have completed training. We want to check with the vendor that the system is ready to launch. June 1st is going to be our go live date. I won't even finish this because it's so boring. You're probably falling asleep right now. So you want to avoid this at all costs. All right, so here's the same slide, and I tried to make it as boring as possible just to show you that you can make anything somewhat exciting if you try hard. So here's the same slide, but without list speak. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say each sentence as if it was its own slide. Okay, I'm going to say each sentence on the screen as if it's its own slide. Now, obviously, I would prefer that these were on its own slides, but if maybe you're in a presentation and the boss says, hey, we've only got 4 slides and you have to cram a bunch of stuff together, so be it. So I'm going to tack on a little extra on each bullet and make it interesting. So what I'm going to do is try to add some emotion or something human to each bullet point. So here goes. I'm just going to try this on the fly. Hey guys, we're going to talk about the action items here for the new system. So I'd really like you guys to pay attention. We've got 7 action items, and they're really important because if we don't follow this, then we're not going to be able to go live successfully, and it will impact our end user. Okay, so that's my open, and I'm opening with, if you don't do this, there's a consequence. So I'm trying to get people to buy in emotionally to this and go, hey, this is a big deal. Okay, back to the example. All right, so the first thing we want to do is ensure users have swipe card access. Now, this is really important, guys, because if we don't ensure that users have swipe card access, they won't even get into the building when they first start. So that's the first one, really important. The second one is to ensure users have completed training. Again, this is really important. We want to make sure ensure the users have completed training because they need to understand how the new system works so they're not frustrated. The third one is we want to check with the vendor that the system is ready to launch. Now remember guys, we have a go live date. We want to make sure that the vendor is ready to launch. Fourth point, June 1st is our go live date. I want you guys to mark that on your calendar. I want you to maybe put a reminder in your Microsoft Outlook or whatever calendar program you use. Again, June 1st is the go live date. Now, when you come in that morning, you're going to turn on your computer. This is really important, of course. And you maybe want to make a joke here or something, right? Make sure your computer's turned on. When you first turn on your computer, you're going to log in and then you're going to clear your internet cache. That's really important. And then the very last one is you want to log into the new system. And you'll let me know if that works. You'll email me, you'll phone me. I want to make sure that you guys are ready to launch successfully. Okay, so see what I did there? I ended every bullet point on a down note instead of an up note. It makes things a little more interesting, a little more engaging. And then I also added some extra stuff after each bullet. Sometimes I just repeated the bullet. So if you're listening on a webinar or a conference call, this becomes a little more engaging than just listening to someone ramble on about the bullets. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be exploring many more tips and ideas for public speaking, training, and facilitation on this channel. So if you like this video, please subscribe. Thanks again.